Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm a former Boeing 737 pilot, and welcome to our taxi-in tutorial on the iFly Boeing 737 MAX. We've just vacated the runway after our flight from Las Vegas to San Francisco, and we are now going to do the housekeeping by cleaning the entire airplane up. I will do this while we're stationary, but in the real world you would normally do this while the aircraft is taxiing. So, you can try and remember this by the rule of 3. Let's have a look at what that means. You start on the pedestal, setting the transponder to the altitude off position. Then you are going to move up a little bit and you are going to retract the flaps, unless icing is suspected on the flaps. In that case, you leave them on the 15 position. We're also going to turn the speed brake up, which is the first 3 items completed. So that's the 3 items on the pedestal. Next, we are going to move up 1 step, and we start on the control column with the trim. And we are going to reset our trim towards 4 units. So that's number 1. Number 2 is setting the auto brake to off. Number 3 is selecting the system display up here. You can kinda add number 3 up here if you want to, so turning the standby instruments back into their standard mode. The next changes are going to be on the MCP, so again we're looking for 3, and that's going to be number 1, flight directors off, number 2, set an odd altitude plus 100, number 3, set the speed down towards 100 knots. Also, ensure that the weather radar is turned off. The next one is going to be on the overhead panel. So number 1, lights. So that's landing lights off, strobe light into steady. Number 2, start switches off. Number 3, ProArt into the auto position. And that is what we have to do in order to clean the aircraft up. Note that I have not started the APU yet. The background is that whenever it is possible, we aim not to start the APU, but to shut down the right-hand engine during our taxi-in in order to not only conserve some fuel, but also in order to just connect the ground power when we arrive at the gate, and therefore we don't have to start the APU at all. Saves maintenance cost and saves fuel cost. So, our aircraft is now cleaned up and we can start our taxi-in. Let's go off the brakes, and the aircraft is going to start rolling all on its own as we start our taxi in. The taxi routing is fairly straightforward today. I'm quickly going to show you on my Navigraph charts, so let's have a look at that. We have vacated the runway over here over Tango, and we are just down here. We're going to taxi straight on Echo, around the terminal, and then down here into gate Delta 2. So, a little bit of oversteering technique once again in order to maintain the main wheels on the center line. Once we are vacating the runway, we are going to take the timing. 30 seconds after the landing roll is completed and the flaps are up, we are going to run the recall, which would bring up any possible issues that might have occurred during the landing. And 3 minutes after the engines have been run in idle thrust, note that reverse idle counts for this, we are going to shut down engine number 2, provided that our gross weight is 63 tons or less. Today we are below that weight, so we are going to shut down engine number 2 over here. Note that contrary to the Airbus, the 737 does not require the APU to be operating in order to conduct single-engine taxi. You will notice that the handling qualities of the aircraft are generally good during single-engine taxi operation, and there is really not a lot for you to consider, unless that you should not stop with the aircraft in a turn. So, whenever you do single-engine taxi, aim to straighten the nose wheel before you bring the aircraft to a stop. Generally, it's no problem to turn over the operative engine, so you can do left turns without any problems, even with a little bit of thrust on the engine. So, gate Delta 2 is where we're going, so let's go ahead and select GSX. Delta 2, and we don't need a follow me in here. Handling by United Airlines. Here we go. Okay then, off to the right. If you intend to start the APU, do it about a minute before you actually reach the gate, so that the APU is available by the time you get on blocks. Today for the tutorial video, however, I am going to leave the APU off so that we do everything to make Mr. O'Leary as happy as possible by not using the APU at all, which you should really consider doing as standard operating procedure, as it does save the environment. As we're about to turn into the gate, make sure that the weather radar is off and turn off the taxi and the turn-off lights. Be sure to enter the gate at an appropriate speed, no more than 6 or 7 knots, and once you're actually established on the center line, do slow it down a little bit further. Something like 3 to 4 knots is usually a good speed over here. Anticipate if you have to taxi uphill, so that you can add a little bit of thrust before the aircraft comes to a stop. This is really the situation in which you really don't want to bring the plane to a stop in the gate, because it would need quite a bit of thrust to get moving again. Alright, good look outside at the marshaller, so that we're able to stop the plane at the appropriate position. Looks like we do need a little bit of thrust here. 40% is the maximum, but as you can see, we don't even need that much. The plane does taxi and react at quite a bit less than that. So a little bit more power, and here we go. Alright, so we'll bring the aircraft to a stop. We set the parking brake, and since the right-hand engine is shut down, the ground crew can already access the external power panel. So we go to the system page, electric, connect, set, and then we activate the external power. Verify that we have 2 blue lights, which indicates that the generators are off bus, and 1 red light, which is the parking brake, and then we can shut down the remaining engine. So let's show up the secondary engine information, monitor the N2 as the engine is running down, and then we can do the transit shutdown procedure, or the full shutdown procedure, if you do not intend to do another flight. Today we will do the full shutdown procedure. So first of all, once the N2 on both engines is below 20, we are going to turn the anti-collision light off. And for the full shutdown procedure, since we are not using the APU, we can turn off all the fuel pumps. If we were using the APU, keep the forward left pump. Then we are moving forward. Fasten belts off, no smoking off. Window heat is going off. Move further down, anti-ice off as needed. Hydraulic pumps off. If the voice recorder switch is ever going to be fitted to the aircraft, make sure that that's in the auto position. Air conditioning packs auto. Isolation valve open. Lights as needed. So that is basically, if you have engineering nearby, it is a nice courtesy to turn the wheel well light on so that they can see something. If it's nighttime, keep the logo light, keep the position lights on steady, but ensure that the anti-collision light is off and the landing and taxi lights are off. Moving further down then, we are going to set the transponder into standby and select Squawk 2000. And then we can run the shutdown checklist. And that completes your flight in the iFly Boeing 737 MAX. I do hope that you have enjoyed this one, and as always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. And if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.